Hello and welcome to the third and final part of the Necro Rags to Riches mini-series. On the first episode we covered the road from normal to hell, and then on the second episode we covered early mapping with full Trang set on 5 different builds, with also including like a declone kill, how you can do it like self-sufficiently with like fairly little budget and like kind of like early options, not too many like GG slams or anything like that. And on day number 3, we kept exploring builds and different upgrades and how they affect different builds, to generally show like what are you looking to do on each build. So we kind of looked at the same builds we looked on day 2, like the Thief Spear Necro. We looked at like the summoning builds, like fire golems. I actually also looked into a build we did not show on day 2, which it's less of a budget build in my opinion. It's kind of like the green goblin approach with like all the skeletons and like the demon machine merc from like the Act 1 demon machine merc. The main reason I didn't want to show it too much on day 2 is because we've done it so much on the druid, which is like fairly similar in terms of gameplay. I don't think it's like a very good build to farm early. It's not very budgety. It requires quite a few important pieces to get it to start working. So I wouldn't say that's like a budgety build to kind of go, to farm your riches with. It's a build you go into when you're already rich. So with that said, I wanted to share kind of like our results from our day number 3, and then we can talk about like what's kind of like in store for early Necro resetters, in my opinion. So we started just by showing like a tier 0 clone kill. I'm showing the gear. The gear doesn't really matter. You can do it with full trangs. We did like a full trang skill. Then I showed like some gear that I just wanted to show because I found it on my SSF, like the shaft stop that we found the day before. So I just wanted to kind of show it. The main important parts is just like having like a lot of plus skills and your skillers up. If I'm using water walks for max fire and lava gouts for max fire. That's pretty useful. Using a nature's piece for max fire and for the oak sage is kind of nice. And having, of course, dwarf star is also very important. The rest is relatively less important. Generally speaking, if you run full trangs, you get a lot of PDR as well. So you can run that with a dwarf star and a nature's piece, and also, of course, the water walks, and that would be fine as well. So you can see that the bone spirit kill starts with you using bone spirit for Diablo. You will be using bone spirit for Diablo and bone spirit for the skeletons. It's just more effective that way. And you can kind of see it's not too difficult, but even though we're using better gear than we used on our golem kill, it ended up taking us a little bit more juice. You can see it takes a little bit more time. You do a little less damage. So far I'm not super impressed with the bone skill tree. I said on day 2 as well, like the early mapping abilities of this were relatively unimpressive with budget gear. I know that you can find specific gear that takes it even further. I know that with like Asylum aura, this build becomes much stronger, but since we're focusing on early budget stuff, like how do you get your riches with this build, in my opinion, it didn't quite make it. Despite that, I do know that it is possible to kill Declone with this build for very cheap, and we did make this kill as well with a little bit more gear. So it's definitely possible. In my opinion, it's not recommended, especially to people who are new to Declone. If you're already experienced, you know what you're doing. You don't need my tip on this, I guess, but I personally didn't find this build to be the easiest to kill with. Declone or mapping, it felt a little bit clunky, a little bit too slow in whatever content I tried when I left LOD. So like farming Chaos Sanctuary, that was okay, but everything else felt like a little slow. Yeah, you can kind of see, like, it's not like we're in danger or anything. Obviously, like, it's not like it feels very stressful, the fight. It's just less effective than the other builds that we tried on Necro so far. So generally, we're just not as impressed. Yeah, we're finishing this last skelly phase. And as long as you line up the skeletons and you kind of like hit all of them with the bone spears, it is fairly easy to do. Yeah, we go ahead and hide for one more time. Again, compared to other builds that we tried with even more budgety gear, this one took the most potions. So it could also be like, I am fully willing to admit this is, again, another build that I haven't tried before and had no idea how specifically you're supposed to play. So it could be also my fault for not knowing, you know, the skill issue with displaying this build. But as far as I saw, this build had less potential, and I would not recommend it for starting your season or self-farming an Anilus or for self-farming Ubers. After doing this build, we went into the green goblin build that I mentioned. This is of course the build I used on my druid to farm all the way till tier 2 Rathma. So I know that this build is very effective. With this necromancer variation, you'll be teleporting and casting amplified damage. It's kind of like the edge of necromancer in terms of this build, that you get this amplified damage. I really think this build requires a few too many pieces to get it to work smoothly. Like you want the Wisp Projector, you want your Templar's Might, sometimes you want like these specific like pieces for your Mercenary, you want Innocence, you want her to have a good Demon Machine for damage. So there's a lot of things that you want that could be a little expensive to get early on. So for all these reasons, I would say that this is not specifically a build I'd recommend for farming your riches on ladder reset. But if you're playing on SSF and you find like the specific pieces you need, you could definitely make quite a bit of fortune on this build. That's legitimately what I did with the druid, and it worked out really well. So again, it's more of a depending on your drops kind of thing with this build. It was nice to revisit it after a couple weeks not playing it, but all in all, I would say that there are plenty of Necromancer builds that I would try before trying this build on a ladder reset. Yeah, the one benefit that I would say, again, that you should always mention when it comes to summoner builds, it is they do have a lot of times to loot. You can see me going through all sorts of items while my merc and minions kind of kill everything. It is also very safe. The next build that we're trying is the Fire Golem build, and we made a Phoenix for it that rolled really nicely with a level 12 Redemption Aura. And on day number 2, with like the budget gear, the Triangles, the Fire Golem build wasn't really working that well. It was doing fine, but it wasn't working very strongly. It felt like it was lacking both damage and survivability. So people told me, you need Phoenix, you need that, you need this, you need Infinity. So we came into day 3 with Infinity, with Phoenix, with a bunch of like huge upgrades for the build to see if it really performs better. And the truth is, it did perform better, but you can kind of see that like things they die. It's not like they take too much time, but requiring 3 big rune words just to get started, like Infinity, Phoenix, and you need your Chamlaw for the minion with a solid base for it as well. In my opinion, is not very budgety, and despite this build working fairly well, I don't think it's performing bad compared to what we invested. I would say that this build is more like a luxury build. If you happen to get lucky early on and get all the rune words you need or all the key pieces you need, I think that's great. If you want to farm on this build, it's awesome. But otherwise, I think this is more of a build that you'd farm with later in the season, or maybe like a week into the season once you have like more pieces, more runes maybe. And I would prefer it personally like to transition into it from a different build. This is not to say that you can't do it. You can. It just felt like it took some time to get effective. And like earlier on day 1, day 2, day 3, I wouldn't recommend starting with this build. But yeah, I can understand for people who play long hours that this kind of build is very attractive in the sense that it's really like stress-free to play. And over here you can see us representing a Corpse Explosion. You might be asking yourself, why are you showing us Corpse Explosion and cows? And why does it take you so long? This is because we're playing on players 8. on day number 2, Corpse Explosion was already extremely successful with super budgety gear with our Triangle set. On day number 3, we got some upgrades. We took the Infinity and a few other strong items to improve our damage, and we actually went into players 8 cows just to show how this would look like if you were in a full pub of 8 players. And we actually managed to kill mobs and progress the map, which is insane. I think this build, I'm sure people know that this build has a lot of potential, but I know not a lot of people are playing it. It is incredibly strong. You can see me changing the players to 5 because I just wanted to get through the map. We had like a lot of things to do that day. But yeah, I really recommend this build for people who like active builds. I thought it was really fun to play. It is a great way to farm on budget. Like, you don't need all these like gear upgrades, which is really great to have. Like, a build that can work on a budget early will really help you grow your currency early on, because you're not focused on these like small upgrades to get your farming going. You're farming from like moment 1, and like things will just kind of roll your way, and you can focus on these like higher end items that you want to purchase for your build. So I really recommend this build if you're trying to farm on a Necro early on in the ladder reset. This might be, I think, the number 1 recommendation for Necro, in my opinion, just because it works so well and so consistently with budget items. Yeah, even Snack Bacon agrees. This build seems really fun, which is probably what I'm saying as I'm playing it, because I was really enjoying it. Watching this, I'm really amazed that we managed to do so much damage. We went with an approach of grabbing like an Infinity, but like grabbing an Infinity and just farming with all sorts of random items we found. You can see we're using a Viper Magi, a Shaco, so nothing too crazy in terms of the items we're using. So even though these are upgrades, I would still say this is relatively budget, since the only like main upgrade we got on day 3 is the Infinity. And I mean, Infinity on day 3 is pretty legitimate to have. I don't think it's very hard to farm an Infinity early on, especially since a lot of people are making Infinities and selling them. So I really recommend checking this build out. You could also make for the Merc, like you could make an Infinity for Act 4 Merc. That would be a little bit more effective for this build, because you're doing physical damage as well. Then you can use an Act 4 Merc who will amp for you, and you don't have to amp yourself. It will definitely make things faster. I just already had an Infinity made for an Act 2 Merc, so I just went with that. I didn't go with anything else. Alright, we've seen enough of Corpse Explosion as much as I was enjoying it. And let's hop to the next build. And the next build was Desecrate. Desecrate on day 3 to me felt like it didn't really improve that much. We tried all sorts of different items to improve with, but I think for the most part I just didn't have the right items to upgrade myself with. Like, there's all sorts of upgrades that we could obviously have, we just didn't find them. So this build was kind of like in a place where it was a little bit stuck. I didn't find like the right head to use, like the right shield. And I think some of the upgrades for it are a little specific, and that's like a downside and an upside. On one side, it means that you can stay just with the Trank set and do pretty well and farm, and you'll be fine. You can see that I'm farming just with Trank set and I'm doing okay. So that's like one side to it. You can see I'm clearing like a cow map. Like I think we took like about 20 minutes to clear that map, which is not bad for Desecrate. I'm also showing how you can clear a declone with just full Tranks. So overall, I think the build is fine, very budgety, but it also means that like it takes some time till you find like your actual upgrades. It could be I'm just unaware of like what the upgrades are, or like what are like the upgrades you really require to get this build to the next level. So that's like perfectly possible. But yeah, I'll have to look into it a little bit more. It felt like the changes I made from full Tranks to different like more unique items weren't just that significant is all. But yeah, I think that's okay. I don't think that's like a major problem. It means you can focus on like small direct upgrades more efficiently, like getting like a really good D-web or maybe getting facets, things like that, which are awesome. You can see here in the declone attempt that I'm using Desecrate, but I'm also using revives. Generally, I don't think Desecrate Necro in bossing uses revives. I just thought it would be easier for like a newer player to play this as like a semi-summoner. So I'm like using Desecrate and I'm summoning like a few revives to just gonna, you know, stick there with me, tank for me, making this a little bit easier than it would be otherwise. I'm mostly focusing on just like poisoning him, but since there's like a downtime between, like I'll do Desecrate, I'll dodge for a little bit, summon a few revives and keep going. They just save you a lot of damage that you would be taking otherwise. You can see all the skeletons are kind of focused on them. In my opinion, it's fine. I don't know if other people like to do it or not, especially in like higher tiers. From my understanding, it's not something you do. But for me, that worked out, so I was okay with it. Ignore that cold nova that just hit my face there. As long as you can keep your bone shield up, you're doing fine. And yeah, you can see me use Poison Nova as well. Poison Nova's AoE is like kind of like surrounding you, and it requires less aiming. So just throwing it out every now and then during the fight while you're avoiding and dodging, I think is like perfectly fine. It kind of like make sure like the skeletons are being damaged as you're dodging other things. So I was like trying to keep that up as well to just to make sure I'm like maximizing my damage in these kind of like dodge situations. Yeah, here you can see we pretty much dispatched with the 3 phases. I took some mana potions with me again just because of the Bone Spirit fight where I actually ran out of mana for the first time in any of these declone attempts. So that's the only reason I took a few mana potions. I ended up not needing them, but you know, just for caution. And yeah, here you can see us finishing the fight, and really didn't take too much effort, too many Jews. Was a really clean fight. It felt like I think the safest out of the 3 fights that we had, like the golems and the Bone Spirit fight. The Desecrate fight, it felt the safest. It was done also with budget gear, so just like the golem fight. So I really recommend if you want to be self-sufficient about it. Desecrate is the go-to build to kill tier 2s as well for Declone and Rathma. So I would say this is the build you should be trying if you want to do, even though it's just tier 0s, that's what I would suggest. But of course, feel free to try the other 2 builds that we displayed as well. With that said, we finished our Rags to Riches series, and now you finally know which builds you can start your farming with, how to get through normal and hell, how to start getting your initial gear, your trank set going, and how to get efficient at mapping and, you know, get your riches for the early part of the season. Hope to see you on the next mini-series. I've not decided which one will be the next character yet. But hopefully I'll decide soon at some point. I don't know when this is released. I might have decided by the time I release the video. So I'll see you around when I see you. And if you enjoy this content, make sure to drop a little like and a little subscribe. And all the other free stuff that you can do with the press of a button. Okay, so I'll see you around on the next one. And have a good whatever you're having. Bye.